and welcome back to my channel. I'm working on a commission piece for somebody, and here is how I made the belt for Shoto Todoroki's cosplay. For the belt buckle, I did use a 3D print file from Thingiverse. I will leave the link below for that print. However, it had failed, as you can see, so it only had 10% left on it until it was done. And so I figured I'd still use it and just add what I needed to add. For the base and the structure of the belt, I used this belt I found at our local thrift store here, and I'm just unpicking the stitches to take off that buckle. And I'm taking the measurement of it because I will be covering it with a burgundy fabric. So I just measured my fabric. I measured it 40 inches by 3 inches. And I am making basically a big old channel for it so I can shove the belt inside of it. With that long strip of fabric cut, I go ahead and pin the one edge down, and then I will sew that down as well, leaving both of the shorter ends open. And with that long tube, I go ahead and fold it right sides out. And then I go ahead and feed the belt through the tube. Once I go ahead and get the belt all the way through, the extra fabric I have on the ends of the burgundy fabric, I go ahead and fold those in, and I will top stitch this entire belt. With this belt, you'll notice that there's some grommets in there. I take care when I do top stitches not to hit those grommets. Now, with the base structure of the belt complete, I go ahead and work on putting the belt buckle on. I will have one of my ends of the belt wrapped around that opening there, and I will stitch it down, but first I need to figure out the placement of the Velcro since that's the chosen closure of this. So once I decide where it's going to sit, I go ahead and mark it to the length I need, and I will cut that Velcro off. And then I will sew it to the end of the belt. For the piece that gets connected to the actual belt buckle itself, I do go ahead and wrap that around that piece that so the fabric can hold onto the belt buckle itself, and I will sew that down so that it's not going anywhere. And the other piece of Velcro, I go ahead and super glue that onto the back of the belt buckle. Now it's time to finish the belt buckle. I go ahead and use some parchment paper with a crayon, and I mark out those 3 spots that are missing the tops to it. That way I can get the correct size for the top of the belt buckle. For the side pieces, I go ahead and trace that pattern piece onto some craft foam. I only do 1 layer of the side pieces, and I will cut out 2 layers of that middle piece. With that second middle piece, I do go ahead and measure 1/2 inch from each side to make a small little rectangle in the middle, and I will cut that out since Shoto Todoroki's belt buckle has an opening there. And then both those middle pieces will be glued together. And then all those pieces will get glued to the belt buckle, and I do use contact cement for the gluing. While that is drying, I go ahead and cut out the back piece, which is the same size as the belt buckle itself, which in my case it was 3 inches by 6 inches. And I use this 1/4 inch mat, which is actually for a child. It's like a child play mat. And then I cut the same size out of some craft foam. And in the middle of the green craft foam, I do cut a 2 inch by 1/2 inch square out of the middle of it. And once the contact cement is dry on my belt buckle and my green craft foam pieces, I go ahead and glue those together. And I do apologize for jumping back and forth, but I was trying to get this done in one night, and since I had to wait for glue anyways, it was just easier to work on other stuff while I was waiting. And then I go ahead and add glue to the back piece, to the green craft foam and the white foam. Those will be glued together as well. For the back piece, I am looking for the back center, which will align with the front of the belt, because that is where the back piece will go. And then that will also give me an idea of how big I need to make the side pieces for the belt. So right now I'm just basically mapping out where everything will sit on the belt. So my side pieces will measure about 8 inches in length and 3 inches high. And that will leave me about a 2 to 3 inch section in between each piece, so I can put those silver dangly bits, which I believe in the show he calls them, they are first aid kits. So here I'm cutting out the side pieces, which I said are 8 inches by 3 inches, and I'm cutting out 2 of them. And going back to the back piece, I'm going to go ahead and attach the green craft foam to the base layer. And my green foam kind of stretched a little bit, so I am actually evening up those edges with the base layer. Later on I will take my Dremel and I will round off each corner. And now I'm going to use contact cement to attach the back piece to the belt. In hindsight, I should have just painted everything before I started attaching, but I didn't do that. I was kind of in the zone and I was having fun making this. Now back to cutting the side pieces. And then I cut the same size from the green craft foam as well. And this craft foam will have a cutout as well. However, I did measure about a 1/2 inch from each side to create this rectangle. In the side pieces on this belt, there is some vents. I don't know what they are, but they're lined, so I'm going to call them vents. And they're about a 1/2 inch apart from each other. So I just measured a 1/2 inch on the lengthwise of this foam, and I just scored the top of it. I did not go all the way through it, I just scored it. And then with my heat gun, I heated it up, which shrank the foam to create those lines. And then I just attached the back piece once the glue was dry. Now I go ahead and use contact cement on the edges of the white foam and the green foam, and once that's dry, I will attach those together. And then since they stretched again, I go ahead and trim up the green part. And then I Dremel everything flat and round off those edges. And with my heat gun out, I go ahead and I heat up the back piece and the side pieces, and I do form those into a curved shape. And then I add glue and wait for it to dry so I can attach it to the belt. Now, if you haven't noticed, I forgot a certain detail, which are the rivets that are on the front of the belt buckle and the back piece. I realized that after I paint the base color brown, and then I attach them later. So right now I am actually doing a base coat of a chocolate brown, and I use apple barrel paints for this entire build. I do Mod Podge it later on for the sealant. And I use this chocolate brown, and I make sure that I get into all the nooks and crannies, all those vents, all the corners, make sure there's no white or green showing. Because when I come in with the lighter coat, I want to try to avoid getting the lighter coat into those areas. And this is why I said earlier I should have painted it before I attached it to the belt, because I did get a little bit of the paint on the actual belt itself. And here's where I remembered there's supposed to be rivets there. There's 4 on the front, 2 on each of the panels, side panels of the belt buckle, and then 4 on the back in the same area. And I'm just using googly eyes that I painted silver. I don't know why I did that, but I did it. And attached it with super glue. And once those are on, I go ahead and do another coat of the chocolate brown. And the latter coat is a mixture of 2 different colors. I believe it was a toasted marshmallow and some sort of beige color, just to get the color I wanted, which is more of like a gray fawn dark mustard shade, and I paint the entire belt that color. And I do use 2 coats of that as well. I try to avoid the crevices and those grid lines. And I do give this a wash just to bring out some more details. I use a real brown color and diluted it down with some water. And then I go ahead and paint that on heavily, and then I take a paper towel and kind of dab it. And then I go ahead and seal everything with Mod Podge. I do go ahead and actually put Mod Podge on the burgundy fabric because I wanted it just a little bit darker and I wanted it a little bit more leathery looking. And this is matte Mod Podge. And last but not least are the health packs that he carries. These silver doodads that are hanging off his belt. He's got 2 on the front and 2 on the back on each side of the back piece and each side of the belt buckle. And these things were 3D printed from another file from Thingiverse. And these doodads and belt buckle were all printed with PLA filament. And the doodads, painted them a base gray, and then I used a dark gray, light gray, and a almost white paint to add shading and dimension to them. And when they are printed, they automatically have holes printed in the tops of them so they can be attached. Once those were painted, I went ahead and used a spray sealant to seal the paint. To attach the little silver doodad, just used some fishing line, and I used a big old sharp needle and sewed it through the fabric. Once they were at the right length off the belt, I went ahead and tied that fishing line down and super glued it so hopefully it doesn't come unraveled. And I did use googly eyes, spray painted silver again for the rivets that hold the doodads on. However, I did go back through and hot glue them all on because super glue wasn't holding very well. And here is the finished belt. This was an enjoyable project. I had fun making this belt. I did actually make the entire cosplay. However, it would be one really long video if I showed you how I made every single bit, from the shoes to the back armor piece and the wristbands and everything like that. So this will be a multi-video project. And if you're planning on making a Shoto Todoroki cosplay, I hope this helps. I hope you liked this video. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you next time. Bye!